Hello, Commanders fans. Today we have some hot news that you can't miss. So before we start, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell to stay up to date with all the news, and leave that like that strengthens our community. Now, without further ado, let's go straight to today's news. Let's cheer together. 5 running backs the Commanders could sign amid a potential injury crisis. As if things weren't bad enough for the Washington Commanders right now. They're on a 3-game losing streak, and potentially dealing with an injury crisis in their running back room to make matters even more complicated. Brian Robinson Jr. sprained his ankle on the first play against the Dallas Cowboys. He was able to return to the game, but something was missing. His status going forward is in doubt, so keeping an eye on his progress throughout the week will provide a broader indication of the former third-round pick's recovery. Veteran dual-threat Austin Ekeler was involved in a scary incident late in the game, taking a nasty hit on a kick return that left him initially immobile. While the initial prognosis was positive, the Colorado State product is in the NFL's concussion protocol and may not be seen until after the bye week. If Robinson and Ekeler are unavailable, the Commanders should have a sufficient contingency plan in place. General Manager Adam Peters will react accordingly. But the team can't go into a crucial Week 13 matchup against the Tennessee Titans with only Jeremy McNichols to depend on. With that in mind, here are 5 running backs the Commanders could sign amid the potential injury crisis at the position. Commanders could sign Michael Wiley to active roster. Besides re-signing Chris Rodriguez Jr. and throwing him into the fire once again, elevating Michael Wiley from the practice squad to the active roster seems like the most realistic avenue of pursuit. After all, continuity is everything at this stage of the campaign for a team entering a tight spot. Wiley has been a hot topic throughout Washington's offseason after signing as an undrafted free agent. His explosive presence continued during his preseason involvement, leading many to believe he would be moved to the 53-man roster after his exceptional efforts. The Commanders went with experience and signed Jeremy McNichols. They thought enough of Wiley to keep him on the practice squad to continue his development. There would be no better time to see how he progresses if Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Ekeler are out. Hopefully Robinson and Ekeler won't be out for too long. But Commanders better have some options lined up to keep their hard work on the campaign from disappearing into the abyss. Commanders could sign Myles Gaskin. It looked like a lucrative career could be on the cards for Myles Gaskin at one time. The running back had an encouraging run for the Miami Dolphins in 2020-21. Unfortunately, injuries meant his time with the franchise was short-lived after that, and he's bounced around the league ever since. Gaskin is currently on the Minnesota Vikings practice squad. He's made a few appearances on the active roster, earning 3 carries over the course of the season thus far. It's not exactly the best production to look at, but the Washington Commanders are beggars who can't be choosers if Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Ekeler miss extended time. What Gaskin does have is tremendous vision on the field. Everything has to be spot on around the backfield threat these days, but there's enough explosiveness and patience in his running style to be a consideration. He'll also be highly motivated to make an impact and help the Commanders in their postseason push in this scenario. Like Jamar Jefferson, the chances of Washington identifying Gaskin as a top target are slim. But if they go the practice squad route, he could be the most intriguing possibility. Commanders could sign Jamar Jefferson. The Commanders could also sign someone to their active roster from a practice squad elsewhere in the league. That would be a last resort for General Manager Adam Peters, but something he will contemplate depending on the respective statuses of Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Ekeler. Jamar Jefferson is currently on the Detroit Lions practice squad. He was a highly productive backfield threat during his time in college at Oregon State, gaining 2,923 rushing yards and 27 touchdowns in 3 years with the Beavers en route to becoming a 7th-round pick. The last and only time Jefferson has been competitively involved in an NFL setting was during the 2021 campaign, where he gained an encouraging 4.9 yards per carry. Detroit has Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery as its established starting duo, which makes things difficult for anyone else looking to establish themselves. That would be a long shot considering Jefferson's lack of involvement. He will be fresh and in excellent fitness levels, so there are far worse options the Commanders could explore if those in power are forced to look for alternatives. Commanders could sign Jerick McKinnon. If the Washington Commanders decide to do something bolder to give them a new spark down the stretch, An outside influence will be considered by General Manager Adam Peters. Options are slim at this stage of the campaign. Jerick McKinnon is arguably the best remaining option on the market right now. McKinnon didn't get another chance with the Kansas City Chiefs this season. That was enough to prompt others to look the other way as well, which seems odd considering his decent dual-threat production when called upon throughout his career. The former third-round pick has amassed 4,698 all-purpose yards and 34 combined touchdowns in 8 seasons. McKinnon isn't a rookie at 32 and hasn't played in 2024. Conditioning would be the biggest question mark, but he has enough experience to step up if the Commanders are forced to move forward without Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Ekeler. That seems like a long shot, all things considered. However, the benefits of having someone experienced who has won 2 Super Bowls would be immense, with the Commanders' postseason fortunes hanging by a thread. Runners the Commanders could sign amid a potential injury crisis. The Commanders could sign Chris Rodriguez Jr. This seems like the most obvious candidate. Chris Rodriguez Jr. was recently released to make room for edge rusher Javonte Jean-Baptiste. If the outlook for Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Ekeler requires another trade, the former 6th-round pick could return to the fold. Rodriguez ran well during his only legitimate taste of regular season action in Washington. He gained 52 rushing yards on 11 carries against the New York Giants. The Kentucky product also knows Cliff Kingsbury's schematic demands well enough to step in at a moment's notice and make a lasting contribution. Having that familiarity can only help the Commanders. It takes time for new additions to hit their stride. Washington would need immediate assistance if Robinson and Ekeler were unable to go. No one expects miracles from Rodriguez. However, he is a physical runner who can methodically gain yards. That's all the Commanders are likely looking for until their starting backfield duo is healthy enough to participate. At the very least, Rodriguez could return as a contingency plan. It seems like the smartest course of action right now, but a lot will depend on how Robinson and Ekeler progress throughout the week.